I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
This one's wife, Harry, is totally whipped. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Another day, another article about this one's wife and Harry. As ever, I will allow you to make your own mind up as to the veracity of the material that you're about to hear. I provide you with the interpretation vis-à-vis the issue of narcissism. It is the case that when an individual finds themselves in the position of an intimate partner primary source, that they are subjected to manipulation after manipulation. This is, for instance, the benign manipulations that accompany the golden period, and then the malign ones that come with the sustained devaluation punctuated with respite periods, a brief, albeit all too brief, return to the golden period. The consequence of this is that the individual is subjected to a range of manipulations, the necessity of which is to pursue the need for the prime aims, control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. In many instances, this causes the intimate partner primary source to lose a sense of who they are, for their self-confidence and self-worth to be eroded. They don't bother with friends and family in the way that they once did. They find themselves subjected to so many manipulations, they become ground down, that they become conditioned, that they essentially go along with what the narcissist wants, because this is all they are used to, and it is easier to do that rather than fight against it. It is easier to obey than be subjected to yet another devaluing behavior. In the New York Post, Nika Shaknarova writes, Prince Harry is totally whipped by his wife, this one's wife. But not only that, King Charles is fully aware of it. Now, we're not talking about Harry bending over with his pimply bottom on display whilst this one's wife leathers up and, as a dominatrix, lashes him with a whip. No, this is in fact the case of describing him as pussy whipped, whereby he is in complete subservience to his wife. Where are these claims coming from? Well, royal broadcaster Esther Krauku insisted that it's well known among the royals that the Duchess of Sussex has Harry under her thumb. We know that King Charles said something about him being whipped, she told the Sun newspaper. We keep hearing things consistently coming out from courtiers and people that are close to the royal family, she added. Krauku, who discussed the Sussexes with royal biographer Phil Dampier, said the late Queen Elizabeth II's opinion of this one's wife had dramatically changed over time. The Queen's opinion of this one's wife evolved, and it's much like how the country's opinion evolved, she said. And, much like the public, I think the Queen thought this one's wife was a breath of fresh air, very intelligent. I'm not sure where they got that from. She clearly isn't. Very well spoken. She isn't that articulate, actually. Obviously from her acting background, Krauku told the outlet. And she worked. She welcomed her. I think, like much of the country, with open arms. I think where things went wrong was clearly the cultural clash. Well, once again, this is someone attributing the behaviour of a narcissist to a cultural clash and getting it wrong. Krauko claimed that the former actress thought she was marrying a billionaire, when in reality this was not the case. That may well be accurate, given the fact that we know that this somatic narcissist has a love of money by way of a residual benefit, and the fact that she is deluded. This one's wife was marrying a millionaire with like sort of reduced status, she said, of this one's wife. So that might have been not appealing eventually, but also I just don't think she fully understood or was even interested in what the role was supposed to become. The article then goes on to talk about the observations that were made by the Queen's cousin, which we have touched on previously. But the suggestion is, and it's just an opinion that's advanced by this royal commentator, of which there are 10 a penny, that Harry is totally whipped by this one's wife, but also that King Charles knows that that is the case. Now, whilst this is conjecture on the part of this royal expert, it does actually have substance. It has substance in two respects. First of all, in evidence. We have seen time and time again how Harry defers to this one's wife. The little prod on the back, she steers him. The pull on his shoulder, he gets out of the way. The touch of the elbow, so that he moves aside. Time and time again, we have seen video evidence, not an opinion, not an observation, not speculation, but actual video evidence which demonstrates that she controls him, often in a physical way, that he backs down to her, that he seeks her permission. This is because he has become conditioned to the assertion of control from this one's wife, and also as a consequence of the fact that he innately understands that if he goes along with what she wants, life is less difficult. Remember, his prevailing mindset is what this one's wife wants, this one's wife gets. And therefore, we have seen the evidence of him behaving in a whipped way. Secondly, this observation has the foundation in narcissism. As a consequence of the analysis of considerable amounts of evidence, I explained to you years ago that this one's wife is a narcissist. And what that means is that as a narcissist, she has to control Harry like she controls other people. And that means that this isn't a roughly equal partnership between two people who love one another, but one of master and servant, one of jailer and captive. This one's wife must, as a narcissist, assert control over Harry, which means that he's going to be whipped because he loses his sense of self. He loses his self-worth. He becomes an object that is controlled by her. Accordingly, to state that he's totally whipped by this one's wife is an accurate observation based on the evidence that we have seen and the understanding of the narcissistic dynamic between this middle range type A narcissist and her primary source victim. What about the suggestion that King Charles knows it? Well, we don't know his state of knowledge, but one would imagine that he does regard his son as whipped. Again, there'll be two reasons for this. The first is that is something that can be seen on the evidence. Like us, all Charles needs to do is look at the evidence and see how his son has behaved to demonstrate that he is subjected to the control of this one's wife. Furthermore, it's also easier for Charles to accept that that's the state of affairs because he wouldn't want to think that his son has purposely rebelled against him. Whilst we know that this one's wife has asserted considerable influence over Harry, he has also chosen to behave the way that he has done so. Whilst he has been heavily subjected to the influence of this one's wife, it is not the case that he is entirely absolved of blame. He is still his own person, albeit linked to her, and will make decisions, and has done so, guided and influenced by her, but they're still his decisions. Naturally, for Charles's own need for control, the belief that his son has actively rebelled against him without influence is somewhat unpalatable, and therefore it would fit with his own narrative, even though this is the accurate, to believe that his son is acting under the influence of this one's wife, rather than out-and-out rebelling on his own. Accordingly, this assertion that Prince Harry is totally whipped, and King Charles knows it, is likely to be viewed as accurate as a consequence of the presence of evidence and the nature of the narcissistic dynamic. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.